I'd love to start with Rampage because obviously it just happened. You competed. It was a extremely great and also controversial event, a little bit obviously heartbreaking too. So I feel like there's so much to get into here.
It was one for the record books, that's for sure. I mean, it's I don't know, it's just get desensitized to it over the years, and it's just slowly progressed as far as the amount of injuries or Paul being paralyzed was 10 years ago, and it hadn't happened before, it hadn't happened since. And then for some reason, for it to be compiled with Casey getting care-flighted the night before women's finals, Aiden breaking a femur, luckily only just a femur, in a huge crash. So the injury was, bones will heal. That's fairly normal, but even, it's not every year that someone breaks a femur even, right? There's not even a major injury like that every year. But you look at it like he got lucky. And then on to Adolf, which was that was like the thumbnail, right, of all the injuries. That's the biggest moment to happen, and detrimental, scariest looking crash I've ever seen, to where the first time I've ever, besides from Franz at this race in Mexico, who suffered a major life altering head injury. Like that was the first time I'd really thought I saw someone potentially die, right? The way that he like DDT'd the top of his head twice. If the first one did something, the next one was going to just completely sever it. But again, you look at it, you're like, he was extremely lucky for what happened.
Yeah.
Then on top of it, then a mill, like in a completely different manner of people usually aren't hanging off the edge of a cliff like that. It's been like Nikolai, and I think Bordeaux did it, one of the earlier ones, but on far smaller cliffs, right? Like they're a catastrophic looking crash, but then they're hanging off the edge of a cliff, but not a potentially deadly one necessarily. And then
it can compound when you get to the edge like that. Like he was really lucky he stopped on that edge there,
extremely,
because there was another huge drop there. And
lucky that Sammy was there. Sammy is one of the best builders out there, and he just happened to be there. Immediately ran to him and helped until the medics and everyone could get there and stabilize it. And I mean, that's what took so long, is they're trying to make sure that nothing got worse. It was an hour and a half plus, and for them to take that long, it was all out of precaution because of where they were. It wasn't because the injury. I mean, it's a dislocated hip, which sucks, but it's not the end of the world. It was more so of, okay, we can't make this any worse because fell off the next one. It is potentially deadly. Yeah. So to have those, if you were to write it down and show the list of injuries, like this was by far the heaviest. Never had 2 care flights in the men's event. Adding the women, he never had 3 care flights, period. But I mean, last year, I think mine was by far the worst injury. It was just some ribs, right? And we thought it was my back, so that's why there was a care flight, and that's why it looked a little bit heavier than it was. But it was essentially just some ribs and a collapsed lung. But those things healed. Like I was surfing in 5 weeks. I was not like it. It sucked. It hurt. It was scary, but it wasn't really that bad at the end of the day. And this year to have all those is heavy. That was the biggest year for injuries, 100%.
Yeah, and with mountain biking going more and more viral, being more well known through social media and TikTok, all that, and then with this being like the biggest spectacle, basically.
Yeah.
There were so many eyes on it, and it sort of all came together. There were more people never watching it. There were more dramatic events there than ever. And then all of a sudden, all this controversy got brought up. Like we were just talking to Kyle before the event about it. And it was sort of this anticipation. And now that all this has gone down, it's like a lot of people are questioning whether or not the event should exist, whether or not there needs to be some guardrails around the event, or how the riders can sort of frame it so there's less risk. But my view is that the riders are always going to push themselves no matter what. And I think that this might be a wake-up call, but we'll see where they go with it.
Yeah, I would definitely like to hit on that first and foremost as far as who is speaking up, though, It's people from the outside, some trying to get clicks, some trying to get likes, some trying to, it's the talk of the town, so let's try to capitalize on this. And I've always hated how the event's portrayed. It has gotten better, but in the early ages, it was just crashes.
Yeah.
Like the highlight reel would be, come watch Rampage, and it was like 70% crashes. So I've never agreed with that, but what are they trying to do? They're trying to get more eyeballs on it. And that's what has proven to get the most eyeballs on it. So for the masses and the media and just every random person trying to speak up for whatever, like, obviously you can ask the question. It's your right to ask the question, but just remember that none of the riders are saying that.
Yeah.
Like,
all of the commentary is just random watchers.
yeah. We know what we're getting ourselves into. We love it. We are the drivers in the car. Everyone else is sitting in the passenger seat watching, more terrified. I always try to use that to sum it up because, I mean, if I'm sitting in the passenger seat with someone driving fast, I'm usually pretty scared because I'm not in control, right? So the same thing with my wife and my kids, and I'm like, just trust the driver. Like, there is a lot of thought that goes into each and every step out here, every pedal stroke, every brake tap, every shovel thrown. It is highly thought out, and we're the most qualified in the world for it. And we know what we're getting ourselves into. I mean, I think that's a reason why they don't publicize the prize purse either, because they don't want to feel guilty that they're paying, but none of us are going to do it for the money anyway. Sure, if you do it, you would like to be compensated.
Right.
Like, we're going to do it anyway. I think the prize purse is still crazy low, but it's still the biggest one in the sport, biggest it's ever been. And
when you look at the prize purse, people frame it for like they're just going out there to do a huge jump and trick just for the money, but it's not all that.
Never.
There's so much more.
I mean, if you're trying to make $100,000, there are far less sketchy things to do to make $100,000.
Yeah.
I mean, now they added in a Raptor, so I guess it's a little bit more substantial, but it is our livelihood. It is how I feed my family, but I always tried to hold it close to my heart that I will never do backflips for money, right?
Right.
I want to do the things that I want to do. It truly makes me who I am, and it's what I've enjoyed doing my whole life, and it's the greatest part of my life. And if I'm going to do it, again, might as well be compensated. Might as well be surrounded with the brands that I would truly want to ride if I was spending my own money on it. And I've been in a very fortunate position after, some of the early parts of my career where I'd ride for some crappy tires or something. But for the last 10 years plus, I've been riding the brands that I truly would buy and the ones that I identify with, and been fortunate enough that they will pay me enough to where we can, support my family and we can live in a nice place. And it ain't about the money.
Right. Yeah.